All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, from whichever part of the world it is that you're joining us from. Karibuni sana. Welcome to another episode of the Afriforex Daily Analysis. We're glad that you could join us this beautiful 20th day of March 2025. Hope you're well. Hope you had a good time on the charts yesterday and also in everything else that you are up to. But we're really happy that you could join us. Like we always say, we know you're busy people, but you do take the time to be here with us each and every morning. So for the sake of guys who are new here, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit, so it's not a one-man show. We do have the rest of the team here. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them or put them in the chat box. Any requests, any comments, feel free to have a bit of chit chat with the team, but I will also be looking and highlighting some of the comments, questions in the chat box, but towards the very tail end of this session. For the guys who are going to be joining and watching this later on, when we're not live, feel free to drop a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe, like, and share. And of course, that also goes out to the guys who are also here as well. For guys who are joining us for the first time, we do this every Monday to Friday. So feel free to join us live on YouTube, but also feel free to turn on the bell notification so that at least you will be notified anytime we do go live. So we're just going to jump straight into it. So that's pretty much it in terms of the housekeeping. So let's get cracking. So we'll start off by looking at the watch list. So you can see the watch list right there for today, Thursday the 20th. Just one change, the yen joining the buy side of things. We'll see how things ended up going on that front. So today it's the Australian dollar and the US dollar against all the other currency pairs on the buy side. You can see that the indices and the commodities also still end up staying within the same regions where they were yesterday. So we'll start off by looking at the currency pairs that we had yesterday that unfortunately are not on our watch list, which are the yen pairs. So we'll start off with the euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three areas I had pointed out and also illustrations of what potentially to expect. So in the morning, price was here. I pointed out we should be waiting for price to break above this region to the upside before we look for buying opportunities or potentially get a pullback coming in. But there were some crazy pullbacks that happened on the yen pairs, and you will see this across the board. But I had pointed out that ideally you didn't really want to look for a buying opportunity when the market was high up within a seller's region. We didn't know that we were going to get such kind of a reaction, but all we knew is that there were some sellers who were sitting here. But you consider the market tapped all the way back down to within here. And remember, I had pointed out that sometimes these levels look like they are a bit far, but there's nothing that's impossible, when it comes to the FX market. So the market tapped back in within here. You can see that during the London market open, it's like these bars were needed. Although in terms of how to get the buy within here could have been a bit tricky because this move coming down and going up was extremely fast. So it's like the big boys just pushed down, tapped within this region. The market reacted, kind of held within this area. If you did attempt to buy at least once the market came back in within this region, then at least that buy did work out. But you can see that it really struggled just to get back within that region at the top before the sellers came down. But remember that I had also pointed out caution in terms of the buying opportunities on the yens, considering the fact that all of them were within resistance areas on the 4-hour time frame. I had pointed that out, I think, on Tuesday or something. So there was a bit of caution or a lot of caution within there, but it seems that the sellers eventually did come alive within those regions. You will see across the board that there is some good correlation across the board in terms of strength showing on the yens. That's the reason why we have switched it. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're watching out for buys. So you can see the three areas I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here, pointed out that we're expecting a breach to the upside. We didn't want to look for buys where the sellers were. That's not how we do things, but we wanted to see the pullback come back in. So the pullback came in quite aggressively, but unfortunately, you can't see that the buyers really struggled to push the market to the upside of this area here. There was no clear sign of any big buyer, but you can't see that eventually the market has come down. And this could potentially be, maybe the Asian big boys doing their thing because it's something that's also visible across the board, on the yen pairs. So unfortunately, not a currency pair that we're going to be trying to trade today. And of course, yesterday there wasn't any clear opportunity on it in terms of buys. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities as well. So you can't see the three areas I had pointed out, also a game plan of what potentially we could have done. So price was here also within a seller's region, just like we've seen on the rest of the yens. You can't see the massive pullback coming in, just like we've seen on the rest of the yens as well. Price came back in within here. But also this one, just like the euro against the Japanese yen, the market just tapped within here quite fast. Then after that, you can't see that it pushed to the upside, came back in within here, and you can't see that the sellers reacted once again, and they've completely pushed the market to the downside. So for that one, maybe one buy yesterday, but very hard to get. And you will see that, I mean, even as we look at the rest of the yen pairs. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, similar situation, feels like we're looking at the same chart over and over again, but that tells you that correlation is really in play. So price was here, seller's region, wasn't a good time to look for the buys. Price pulled back in, just came, tapped back in within this area. Also, this one came in quite fast, back within this region right here. And you can't see that after that, the market really pushed itself to the upside, tapped back in within that area before the sellers did react. So similar situation with what we've seen with the other yen pairs. And last but not least, also this one, once again, can't see correlation in play. Price was somewhere here. We're expecting the pullback. The pullback came in deeper. Can't see that at around the London market open, or thereabout, price was back in within this region, and off this area, the market did move to the upside. So potentially only one good buy, I guess. Then after that, just like we've seen on the rest of the yens, the market really crashing to the downside. So that's pretty much it in terms of the currency pairs that we had yesterday. Primarily, of course, the yen pairs, which unfortunately did not make it to our watch list today. But at least just looking through them, the reason why we always do the post analysis is so that we can see what we can learn from it. And in any case, we don't like putting things, under the rug or brushing things under the rug. So if things worked out, we'll show you. If they didn't work out, we'll also show you. So we wouldn't just come and show you the things that worked out and hide all the things that didn't work. So moving on into a couple of screenshots that we did get from the exact same people who had sent screenshots the day before. So Alvin, Dan Bickett, Charlotte, George, and we'll start off with Alvin. So this is on the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So I can see that on this one, you got two buying opportunities. So one down here, market went up, came down. When it came down, I guess you added another trade within there, but you closed the first trade, which was good. Unfortunately, the second trade, I guess you got stopped out at break even. Sometimes it does happen. But of course, see what you can end up learning from it. Maybe you could have managed your trade if you could have on this particular trade somewhere higher up within there. But like we always say, a break-even exit is better than a loss any day. As long as you end up learning whatever it is you need to learn, maybe tightening up your money management if you need to do so. If you think everything was fine and you followed your plan to the T and you don't see anything you can't change, then that's also perfectly fine. But at least that was a very, very good attempt. At least you did get the buys where the buyers were. So moving on into two screenshots from Dan Bickett. So this is on the US 30 or the WS30 or the Dow Jones. So for this one, can see that you got some two good selling opportunities high up within there where the sellers were. Stop losses, I guess, for both trades somewhere within this region as the market side moved down in your favor, which was very, very good. And I can't see you have some SNRs down here. I don't know if those are the areas where you are targeting. But ideally, at least it's good to see that your trades are already managed and risk is already mitigated on those particular trades right there. So well done. And you also did get the NAS 100. Also some very sniper entries on this one, high up within this region where the sellers are. Quite hard for many people to get those trades there. But I can't see that once the market started to move in your favor, you did bring your stop losses more or less within your points of entry, which is good. And I can't see that you have some SNRs within there, potential areas where maybe you want to do some money management or potential areas where you are targeting. So shout out to you for that, Dan Bickett. So we also did get a screenshot from George. So this is on the euro against the Japanese yen. So I can see that you got a selling opportunity on this one, somewhere within this area here. I don't know if you got it when the market pulled back in within this area here, or maybe some sort of a cowboy trade, trying to take out the buyers within this area, but at least you did survive and the market did come to the downside. I mean, we've just looked at this, the yen, the big boys on the yen rather, definitely pushing the market down. So if you're still hanging on to this one, see how much more further the market could go. But at least in terms of where you put your stop loss, this is a good region. At least it's just high above the buyers, or rather the sellers who are actually pushing the market to the downside. So shout out to you for that, George, and keep up the good work. So last but not least, we did get a screenshot from Charlotte. So this is on gold. Seems like you were killing it on gold yesterday. So you got a handful of buys as the market was going up. So one buy here, you got it when the market pulled back in within that region. That was good. And then I can see that you got a handful of buys within this area here. I don't know how you got those. Maybe going down to a smaller time frame as the market was pulling around within this area. I don't know, I'm just thinking, but definitely I can see that this one in the market held within here. You added another trade. So in terms of how you got the buys, not bad. At least the market is moving in your favor. The only thing that you just need to adjust is your stop loss, because you can imagine if something happens, and anything can happen. One point in time, price could be here, the next price could be down back within this region here, and it would be very sad, to see all these profits go away. So at least your stop losses for all your trades could potentially be somewhere within this region here. So at least the risk on these three trades could already be mitigated. Then at least the only one that would be a bit exposed would be this one right here. But you'd find that you'd still come out at a profit, even if the market goes against you, because the profit on this trade here and these other two would already more or less end up covering the loss. You know that you'd end up encountering in case the market comes beneath this region to the downside. So at least having your stop losses here, that would mitigate your risk. But in terms of the attempts, not bad. We always say the best way to learn how to trade is to trade. So I guess for as long as you're trading and you're learning and every day you're becoming at least 1% better, then you're definitely on the right track. So shout out to Alvin, Dan Bickett, George, Charlotte for those trades. Us guys are really happy to see your progress. Remember guys, if you do get any trades, whether good or bad, we don't shame. We'll definitely give you the much needed advice that you need. So there's really no shame in sending in your screenshots, whether they're good, whether they're bad. It's not a competition. Just embrace where you are. Use us as a free resource. You can send in your trades via WhatsApp. Our contact details are in the video description. Also, feel free to reach out to us with the same contact details. If you're struggling with your trading, we'll see how best we can end up helping you. But also in the video description, we also do have a number of resources that are there. The Afriforex Trading Academy, we have a link that will lead you there. If you want an MT5 trading account, if you want a trading view account, I know most of you normally ask what software is this that we normally end up using. This is Trading View. You also can end up getting that. There should be a link in the video description that should guide you there, as well as one link that has all our resources. So feel free to check that out. So shifting gears into matters today. So you can see right there, the 20th of March, 2025. So this is what our watch list is going to be looking like. On the economic front today, there's going to be a handful of news events. Yesterday, the markets were all over the place, and today might also be a similar situation. So we have quite a number of high impact news events. This one, the climate count, this one normally brings in some volatility. I actually don't know why it's not 3 stars, but sometimes you will find this climate count, which has to do with the employment numbers in the UK, normally brings in some volatility. So let's wait and see what happens at 10 on that one. Then there is, of course, the interest rate decisions for the CHFs, which have already been showing a lot of strength. Let's see if the big boys continue to push in as much as they're expecting to get a cut on their interest rates. So we'll wait and see what happens. And later on, of course, more GBP news events. You can see that there will be interest rate decisions for the GBP. So at around 3, just make sure that you really watch out for your risk. You could find a lot of volatility coming in on the GBPs. And looking a bit further, you can see that later on during the US session, today being Thursday, we do have the initial jobless claims that's also going to be coming out. And we'll see if maybe the big boys will end up picking up from where they left off. Yesterday there was some interest rate decisions for the USD. So the Feds did end up releasing numbers yesterday at around 9 p.m. our time. So there was definitely a lot of volatility, but we'll end up looking at the USDs as we continue moving along. But ideally, we're still expecting to see weakness. So we're going to start off with the AUD pairs, and we're going to mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three areas I had pointed out, and also some illustration of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting price to tap back in within here, get something we could read, but the market just came, tapped in within this region very fast. Then after that, you can see that the market did push itself off this region to the upside, although this looks like this was just about or before the London market opened. Can't see that around 10:30, 10:45, around that time, but you definitely knew that there were buyers who were sitting within here, and you can't see that the market did make a go for it in terms of taking this level out. But unfortunately, during the US session, the market seems like it came back in within here, but the big boys were just not interested. And you can't see that the market did end up coming back to the downside. So for this one, for today, we'll still be trying to see whether we can get buying opportunities. There was some AUD news events that came out earlier today, and you will see that they've affected the AUDs quite significantly. You will see some moves on the AUDs, something similar to this at around 3:30. I think there was some employment and unemployment numbers that came out, which brought in a lot of weakness on the AUDs. So the pullback happened, the market came back in within here, took off to the upside. Right now, we're coming back in on the pullback. Let's see if we'll get the market coming back in within this area here. And I think some very good buying opportunities could potentially end up happening off that area. So the market has done a full cycle. It's back in within the same region where it was yesterday at a time like this. So let's just wait. This is an area of interest, considering the fact that the market broke to the upside. Maybe on the pullback, we could get a retest back within that region. And of course, we could potentially get some buys, could put stops down here. But let's wait and see what reaction we get within there. So watch out for that, but also watch out for the region at the bottom. In case the market finds its way back within that region, then at least we still should be looking for buying opportunities. But if it breaks and holds beneath that region to the downside, unfortunately, there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. So price was here. We're expecting the pullback. Unfortunately, this one first came down, but bounced off this region. There was some sort of buyers who are there. Then you can see that the market pushed itself back up, and at least you can see a sequence of higher highs and higher lows, which is what we normally want to see on the pullback. So price came back in within here, but unfortunately during the US session and during the New York Stock Exchange open, the market couldn't quite make a move. So it's much, much later on, I guess maybe when also the interest rate decisions for the USD were being released, that's when maybe the big boys also made a move on this one. So you can see that the market came down, attempted to go down lower, but unfortunately just couldn't sustain price beneath that region to the downside. And you can see that this one has pulled back in as much as we should be expecting, weakness on the AUD. This one seems to be giving a bit of a much deeper pullback. So we do have the same areas that we were watching out for yesterday. So it shouldn't really shock us that the market is attempting to make a go for it and break this area to the upside. I mean, if it breaks and holds above this region to the upside, then there's definitely no trade for us. But let's see if maybe the big boys are going for a much better price. Looking at this one on the bigger time frame, you will end up realizing that the market has been coming down for a significant amount of time. So maybe the big boys could be attempting to possibly stop out quite a number of late sellers. But of course, I mean, if the market breaks and holds above here to the upside, we won't really be chasing any trades as the market is giving the pullback. But if it does come back into the downside, maybe after inciting some buyers, then I guess we could potentially look for some selling opportunities within here to attempt to come down. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But of course, the best thing to do is to actually wait and also watch out for the times that we do keep on pointing out and we keep repeating like a broken record. So 11, which is the London market open, 3, which is the US session open, and 4:30, you could find some movements within those times. So moving on into the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three areas that I had pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. So price was here. We're expecting just to get a pullback, just coming back in within here. But it's like the big boys decided to leave and they left without us. Tuliachwa kwa stage, tuliachwa kwa mataa. So for this one, unfortunately, the market pushed itself to the upside. We were anticipating the buy. I know we had also set an alert somewhere within this region here. We're expecting just that push. Even if the market just gave some sort of a spike, that would have been fantastic. But unfortunately, you can see that the market broke to the upside. The big boys went up, pushed to the upside. You can see the pullback came back within this region here. You can see that today, during the Asian session, when those AUD news events were released, the market has actually pushed itself off this region to the upside. So could have been a good buy there. It's just unfortunate that also that buy happened at a time when none of us were on the charts. I don't really think any of us were on the charts at around 3 a.m. But ideally, it's okay because we'll still possibly end up getting a pullback. That wasn't the last opportunity in the world. So we'll be waiting to see if we can get price coming back in within this region here. So at least if we do get the market coming back in, tapping within this region like it is, consider the pullback is coming back in nice and easy, which is good. We don't really want to see aggressive sellers coming at us. So the way it's coming in, this is good. Hopefully we get the slowdown here. Watch out for the times, and hopefully we will be able to end up getting some buys to come up, maybe challenge this region or possibly end up moving up higher. So watch out for that, but also watch out for this region right here. There's a possibility the big boys might also need that price. If they do, then at least we also should be ready for that. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells, and you can see the three areas that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting a pullback to come back in within there. The market decided not to do that, and you can see that price came down, breached this region to the downside quite aggressively. And you can see that, I guess it tapped some sort of a support region down here before the market did pull back in. And you can see that it actually came back in all the way to within this area right here. You can see that it was only today during the Asian session that, the market has actually started to push itself to the downside. So for this one, the levels that we're going to be watching out for are these ones right here. So we've done some adjustments, of course, based on what the story of price is telling us. So let's wait and see what happens. Right now, we have the pullback coming back in. This is an area of interest. You can see that the market has pulled back in within there. Sellers are starting to show up within this region. But of course, we want to get the sales as close as possible within here, especially if the market starts to give some sort of spikes within this area right here, some inside bars, pin bars, probes, within that area. I think it could be sufficient in terms of looking for the sales, because right now, if you hit the sell here, if you put your stop loss somewhere within here, there's a possibility you could be in the line of fire. So it's better off to maybe wait for price to come back in within here. If the market attempts to go up high and comes back in and we see a sign of this big sellers showing up again, I think you would be a bit more confident, to end up taking that trade. So make sure that you watch out for that. But there's a possibility if you get the sell there, we could be coming back into, attack these buyers who are sitting within this region here. And potentially, if we do get them not reacting, we could potentially find the market even going much, much lower. So do watch out for that. Watch out for the times as well, like we keep on pointing out, and also the red SNR at the top. Also remember to just keep that there in case the market needs that area, then at least we should also be ready for that as well. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three areas that I had pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. In similar fashion, with the rest of the AUDs, we're expecting the pullbacks, but the market just pushed itself. And it's something we've seen across the board as we're coming down the list. So for this one, price was here. We're expecting the pullback. That didn't happen. Price broke this region to the downside, but you can see that there was a real fight and price really trying to sustain price beneath this region to the downside. Then price came back up, almost up within this region here. And then you can see that today during the Asian session, from around 330, price did end up coming to the downside. So this one was just a choppy mess that was going on. You can't clearly see any clear opportunity that could have been taken, which is okay, because ideally it's good to have a plan. But if the market doesn't really show you what you need to see, then as a disciplined trader, then you should be able to actually be on the sidelines. So for this one for today, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So we have adjusted them, of course, based on what the story of price is telling us. Maybe the market could be getting into some sort of a range within here. You can see that the sellers push down aggressively, the buyers push up, the sellers come down even more aggressively than before. If you look at here coming down, they only took 2 candles to come down compared to the previous time. So I guess they're becoming a bit more stronger, you know. And right now, you can see that the last time when price was here, the buyers were able to push the market up. This time around, there's actually a hold within this particular region right here. So it's either one of two things. Either the buyers are going to give up, but you know, don't also end up jumping ahead of the market and start thinking that they've already given up just because we have a range at the bottom right here. They could easily end up showing up. I mean, the market is holding within a region of support. The London market open is coming around the corner. You could easily find the market coming back up. And it's very possible for the big boys to show up within there. And we could easily find price coming back in within here, maybe at around 4:30, price is back within here. You could potentially get a very, very good selling opportunity coming down. So it's either one of those two scenarios. But in terms of looking for the trends here, don't really look for the sells now. You're selling where the buyers are. And also in terms of buys, because I know that maybe some of you may look at this and be like, okay, since we're in a range and you're telling us to wait for the market to get back here and look for the sells, then why not jump in on the buy? There's also added risk on the buy. I would say so. Yes, you can potentially end up buying where the buyers are, but also this is a sign of the buyers potentially struggling within this region. You could easily end up taking the buy only to actually end up getting stopped out, because you can see how adamant the sellers have come in. So part of trading, and I know this is part of the things that we discuss with guys in our mentorship programs, you know, in the Afriforex trading academies. Many people think that if you're not buying, then you should be selling. But, you know, that's not the way trading works. You know, if you're buying, then it means that there is no buying opportunity, which means that there doesn't have to be a selling opportunity. It's a matter of buying and waiting and buying, you know, and so on and so forth, selling, waiting. So there's a lot of patience that's needed. So just because it's not a sell doesn't mean that it's a buy. It just means that you should just wait, you know. So moving on into the next one. This is the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, this is a new entrant on our watch list, and we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So let's see what happens. The yens have already started showing a lot of strength. And of course, strength for the yen means the charts are coming down. Some of you may be new and you're wondering the chart is coming down. How is that strength? Yeah, it's weakness for the Australian dollar, but strength for the Japanese yen. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So the big sellers seem to be pushing down from there. The market is back within some sort of a buyer's region. We don't know what the buyers are going to do. There's a possibility they still can react off this region here. And you could find prices just coming back in within this area here. And if that ends up being the case, we could find a very, very good selling opportunity somewhere within this area. There's a possibility we could get that pullback because that's an area of interest. So we will be waiting to see what happens on this one. Could easily end up setting an alert within there because you want to get yourselves as close as possible within that region. There's a possibility price can come back in within here. I mean, if the buyers struggle, the sellers show up within this area, and you know, the big sellers, you could easily get a sell coming in, but for that sell, you also need to be very, very careful because I mean, coming down, it's 30 pips, which is not bad. But if you're not careful and you misread the story within here and you put your stop loss somewhere within this area and you're not too sure if those are the big sellers, you could easily get stopped out as price just comes back in to spike up, you know, just to tap within that area there before the market comes down. And those are those trades that guys normally end up getting caught up. You know, your stop loss just gets clipped, you know, just before the market moves. And sometimes it feels like it's the brokers, you know, who are doing their thing against you. But it's nothing personal. It's just the market doing its thing. So that's pretty much it in terms of the AUDs. So right now we're going to move on to the USD currency pairs. And we're going to mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we're going to start off with the euro against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. I pointed out that the sellers were coming in, although it seems like they were coming in a bit slow. And I pointed out that at least if we did get the market maybe tapping within here, coming back in, and hopefully holding above here, we could have potentially tried to see whether we could have gotten the buy. So I guess this trading plan or this trade plan didn't quite work out because you can see that the sellers really sped up within this region right here, came in within this region, attempted to hold, or the buyers attempted to hold within here, attempted to come up. Unfortunately, they couldn't go that far. And you can see that the sellers once again came in, the buyers came up, and this was during the interest rate decisions, that were released at around 9, because you can see that's when the market did actually make a move to the upside. And right now the market is just struggling within this particular region here. So for this one, the levels that we're going to be watching out for are the same as what we had yesterday, in as much as seems like there was a lot of activity that was going on and a big fight between the buyers and the sellers, especially within this particular region here. But we will be waiting to see what happens. If the price can come back to the upside of this area here, maybe if we do get the market, maybe it seems like maybe the sellers could be attempting to come back to levels within here. But if we get that hold coming in and we get these big buyers who had showed up, possibly showing up again within this region, at least within this area, if we get that hold, maybe we might actually end up attempting a buy within there, keeping stops, somewhere just beneath the lowest part that this market gets up to. But we definitely need to see the big boys showing up, and definitely you could target all the way high up within there. So even if we didn't get a buy yesterday, let's see if we'll be lucky today. But also remember that in case the market breaks and holds, because right now it looks like it's broken, it seems like it's holding. I mean, if the market continues to hold beneath this region to the downside and continues to move to the downside, then at that point in time, there will be no trade for us on the euro against the US dollar. So make sure that you also factor that in to your trading. So moving on into the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So these are the 3 areas I had pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. So price was here. We're expecting maybe price to come back in within here, get a sign of the big boys. They were nowhere to be seen. Price broke to the downside. Consider price came back in within this area. It was only much, much later on, that the market did actually push itself off this region to the upside, then came back in within here. You can see some sort of a retest, quick retest within this area before the market actually continued to push itself all the way till that region at the top right there. So for this one, the levels are the same. You can see that the pullback on this one has also come in quite deep. So the buyers showed up and the big boys showed up, but within this region that we had pointed out, the sellers have also showed up, and you can see that they've taken the buyers, all the way back to square one. So we will be waiting to see what happens. Hopefully the sellers can slow down within here. There's a possibility we could get some sort of a spike coming in. I'm guessing maybe the big boys are also looking for better prices than this. So you just could potentially find a spike happening within there. Because also there are many people who are looking at this and they're thinking that since the market is back within a buyer's region, it's a good time to look for the buy, which is okay. But the only problem is that the big boys know that if you're hitting the buy here, your stops are somewhere here. So you'll possibly find that maybe there could be a spike within this region right here to stop out all those buyers. Then once they turn into sellers, when the market comes back in within here, then at that point in time, their goose is cooked, because now they're just going to end up incurring another loss within that region. And that's how the market tends to work. So let's wait and see what happens. Of course, in case the market breaks and holds beneath this region to the downside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. But at least if the market moves up higher, then at least we should be on the lookout to see whether we could manage our trades within those 2 other regions, and also see whether we could get in on other trades. So moving on into the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten buys. These are the 3 areas I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. Hopefully, we wanted to see price come back up within this region right here and possibly get this buy. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Similar situation with what we saw on the euro against the US dollar. So price came down, hovered around this area. I mean, if you did potentially end up trying this buy down here, because it seems like at around 4:30, which is during the US session open, or the New York Stock Exchange open, rather, you can't see that price was within there. So even if you had stops within here, you can see that at least that buy would have definitely worked out. In fact, this one seems like it would have given even way more risk to reward. So 1:4.66. So you can see that this one, also the market went up. This was during the interest rate decisions that were released. Price went all the way high up, but this one is not really pulling back as much as the NZD So that also should tell us that there could potentially be something up with the NZDs as well. But this one seems to be coming back in within here, which is good. Price broke to the upside. We have the retest coming in. Hopefully we get the sellers slowing down within this region here. We do watch out for the times, potentially maybe at 11. We could get a good buy on this one. If not, maybe just waiting for the US session to see whether we could get some proper buys in. So let's wait and see what happens on that one. And of course, watch out for the red SNR. Price can also come back in within that region as well. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the 3 areas I had pointed out. Also similar areas that we're going to be watching out for today. Price was here yesterday morning. Wanted to see price come back in within this region. Maybe get a sign of the big sellers showing up. So all through the London session, there was a struggle that was going on. Then price went up, the big sellers showed up, the buyers are now struggling. So we'll have to wait and see if we can get price coming back to the downside of this area. Potentially we could get a selling opportunity, but also one thing you need to note is that there's also a level somewhere within this alert that we do have there, and I will be showing you that on what we're thinking. So in case the sellers don't react, there's a possibility there's a price that somewhere within this region here that might be a price of interest for the big boys. So if we do actually go up a higher time frame, what you will see is that the market turned around off this area here, came to the downside, breached this region. So if the sellers are really struggling to push the market down off this area here, there's a possibility price might just need to come back in within this area. And maybe once price taps back in within this region, maybe at that point in time, that's when you'll find the big sellers. These sellers right here may be showing up again. So you could potentially also end up having that level as well. But at least, in case the sellers do also show up within this area here, be ready for that. But it seems that the buyers are still quite adamant. So the sellers showed up, but the buyers are still quite adamant. If the sellers don't show up again within here, then I guess we could get price coming back in within this region here. So what we will be expecting is, hopefully, if price comes back in within here, we get something we can't read, because also the market can just quickly tap back in within this region very fast. When it comes within here, and then after that, make a move to the downside. That can also happen. If you can't get that trade, it's perfectly fine. You still can't wait for price somewhere within here. And also watch out for the region at the top. There is also a possibility price can find its way there. If the big boys do need that price, then at least we also should be ready for that. But well aware that that's going to be the last area we will be attempting our aggressive selling opportunities. So moving on into the next one. This is the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday and today, we're watching out for sells. These are the 3 areas I had pointed out. Similar situation with today. Price was somewhere here in the morning. I pointed out, don't really look for the sells there. Can't see that price went up, came back in within here. The sellers were starting to kind of show up. I guess the sellers within here, but the buyers just couldn't give up. And you can see that the buyers stepped up within this region quite aggressively. So I guess the sellers within this region were a bit stunned. The buyers continued to rally up higher. And I guess they came back in within these levels here, but just shy of that area that I had pointed out in the morning. And you can see that within this region from around 9, during the interest rate decisions, the big boys did actually end up showing up. So for this one, the levels are the same. Let's wait and see what does end up happening. The bias is still to try see whether we can get some selling opportunities. Where the market is right now is not really a good region in terms of looking for your selling opportunities. So wait and see if we can get these buyers possibly getting taken out, and hopefully we get a nice strong breach to the downside. The market pulls back in, within this region, nice and easy. Potentially we could get some selling opportunities within here, but give the buyers the benefit of doubt. You also can't find price, maybe just attempting to come up higher. It's not a guarantee that price has to come back in within this region here, because there are also quite a number of SNRs that the market could use. Like, for example, this one over here or somewhere within this region, you could find that that's as far as the buyers could come in. But generally, you can see that the buyers are definitely somewhere within here. You can see this push coming up, the market coming down. You're not quite sure whether the market could easily bounce off this region to the upside. So in terms of risk, you're better off just waiting to see what does end up happening. So you want to get yourselves as close as possible within there. If the market breaks to the downside, at least within that region on the pullback. So watch out for that. So last but not least, for the currency pairs, we do have the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So this one is a new entrant on our watch list. So we will be watching out for these three regions right here. So you can't see the yens have already started making a move from yesterday. This one after the interest rate decisions, you can see the aggression that the market took off from within this area coming to the downside. The Asian big boys have continued to push the market down lower. Let's see if hopefully the London big boys can give us a pullback on this one. So at least if the market could just pull back in, it's not a guarantee as well for this one that price could come back in within here. But of course, there's a high probability it could, because there's definitely an area of interest, within this region here. But there are also quite a number of SNRs within here that the market could potentially end up using to push itself off from. So let's wait and see what happens. But right now, in terms of the sells, don't really look for the sells. There are definitely many breakout traders who are looking at this and they are thinking that the market seems to have broken to the downside. And you could easily end up looking for the sells here, but you could easily end up getting stuck within this region here. So you hit a sell here, you get taken for a ride, and eventually you could easily end up getting stopped out. Something like that could easily end up happening. So you're probably better off waiting to first see if we could maybe clear this region to the downside. And if we do clear that region, I think if you look for the sells after that, maybe the pullback might come back in within here. But definitely within some sort of a buyer's region. So if I do go up a higher time frame to the 4-hour time frame, you'll see that there's a region of support within here. So by you hitting the sells there, you're going head on with the buyers and the big buyers who are sitting there. And you can see that they've even pushed the market higher up. And this was just on Monday this week. You can see that the market went higher up. The sellers have calmed down. But within this region, you need to be careful. But generally, if we break that region to the downside, somewhere within here, and the market comes in lower on the pullback, we could easily end up attempting some sells, maybe even to target down within here, or maybe down within here, for the guys who look at swing trades. So watch out for that. But caution is advised. But the good thing is the big boy sellers definitely seem to be in the game. So also watch out for that region at the top. It's a bit of a long shot, but like we keep on pointing out, it doesn't really hurt to have it there. So that's pretty much it in terms of the currency pairs. So hopefully you have taken note of everything we've discussed on that front. So right now we're going to move on to the indices and the commodities and see what we should be expecting today. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. The NAS 100 has been quite problematic the last few days. The sellers not really showing up. When they show up, then they disappear. Then the market is in some sort of neutral gear. You can't quite tell what the hell is going on. But also maybe due to the fact that it's also been coming down for an extended period of time, this moment of confusion could be a point of, the sellers may be trying to get some sort of a refresh before they possibly continue to push the market down lower. So for this one, the levels are the same. You can see that we're still within, the zone of this seller who's sitting somewhere within there. All this activity and all this nonsense that's been going on is still within, this guy's zone. So we'll be waiting to see whether either the market needs to come back in within here, because it looks like it was in some sort of a range. Then right now it's looking like it's in some sort of an upward channel. So the sellers and the levels within here are not reacting like we would want to see, because I was also expecting price to come back in within here and maybe get a reaction of the sellers. But the buyers still seem to be giving some sort of issues, but we'll still be waiting to see whether we can get those sellers showing up. So the levels on this one are the same. Let's wait and see what does end up happening. But there are also quite a number of levels in between. We only point out the major levels, but there are also quite a number of SNRs, that are definitely in between that potentially could also give you some very, very good trading opportunities. So let's wait and see what happens. So if I just go back up a higher time frame, you can see that there's somewhere within this region here that seems to be some sort of an SNR. The market came down, bounced off that region, came down. Right now, it's back within this region right here. We don't know if we potentially could get another sell somewhere off this region here, but I'm thinking the market might possibly need to attempt to break above, come back in. The sellers don't show up within there, then I guess price will possibly come back in within this region here. But also remember that price can also come to the downside. I mean, if the big sellers do show up, They've showed up before, somewhere within this region. It's just that they disappeared. And let's just hope they do show up and actually stay this time around and actually push the market down low all the way till within this region. So watch out for that. Of course, if you do get any buying opportunities based on your trading plan, because I mean, we all have different trading plans. We're just sharing ours. If for whatever reason you get buying opportunities, do take them, for as long as you do end up following your plan, not something that you're incited, just because you're seeing some green bars on your charts. And because of that, you just feel that you should be looking for buys. Just make sure that you follow the plan. So looking at the next one, this is the US 30 or the Dow Jones. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. You can't see the 3 areas I had pointed out. So for as long as we're holding above the red SNR, the best was to try see whether we could get some buys. So price was here. I pointed out that we did want to see a breach to the upside of this area and a pullback before we look for the buys. So you can see that the market was just holding within here, then the breach happened. Then after that, you can see that the pullback happened. You just needed to be patient. And you can see that at 9, during the interest rate decisions, the market did actually push itself off this region to the upside quite well. So for this one, for today, the levels are the same. Reason being, the market has just broken above this area to the upside. So we're not quick in terms of changing the levels because we do need to see a bit more proof. Remember that after a breach happens, we always need to see the pullback and the hold. So for this one, we will be waiting to see what happens. And at least if the market comes back in within here, we see those attempts of the sellers to break to the downside, maybe some sort of retests within these regions right here in the market holds, watching out for the times you could potentially get a very, very good buying opportunity on this one. So just watch out for that, but also watch out for these two other areas. It's a bit of a long shot, but in case the market finds its way back within those regions, then we should be ready for that as well. But remembering that in case the market breaks and holds beneath the red SNR, then at that point in time, we'll definitely shift into looking for selling opportunities. So moving on into the next one, which is silver. So for silver yesterday and today, we are going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. This one was a bit of a choppy mess that was going on yesterday. Not quite sure what type of game the big boys are playing, but you can see the 3 areas that I had pointed out. Price was somewhere here. I was expecting price to actually bounce off here and actually continue moving up. So there was this move that was a real shocker. So price came down. At some point, I thought, okay, maybe we'll turn into sellers. Then the buyers showed up, price tapped back in within here. If you look at the time, unfortunately, that at 3, which is during the US session open, price was back in within some sort of sellers region. Then the buyers came down. 4:30, it was back within this area. So I was expecting maybe to see whether the buyers were going to show up. Then the market came down on the pullback. We couldn't get the hold, and right now we're back in buyers. But looking at it, and that's the reason why we've adjusted this area just slightly lower, is because the market seems to be in some sort of a range that's happening within this area here. So I guess true SNR could definitely be somewhere within here. I know we had it here the day before. Then I think when it went up higher, we adjusted it slightly higher. But it seems that the prices and the big boys could be sitting somewhere within this region right here. And that's the reason why you can't see that there are spikes and probes to the downside of this region right here. So I guess this should be what the game plan should be for today. So we're still going to be looking for buys, but of course, for as long as we're holding above the red SNR, there's a possibility price could come back in within somewhere within this region here. And at least for the guys who've done the one-on-one, guys who've done the sniper program, you will see why we should potentially be expecting price to come back in within that region. So if the market can't break above this region to the upside and get a proper hold, within there to get a proper buy, then there's a possibility we just might get price coming back in within this region here. And personally, I'm really hoping it pulls back, because if it does come back in within here, then at least we'll have more risk to reward, more range to the upside, more profits. So let's wait and see what happens. But of course, in case price breaks and holds to the downside of this area, then at that point in time, we'll have to end up waiting to see whether we could get a hold before we start jumping in on selling opportunities. But the buyer still remains to the upside, because to a large extent, it seems that silver is actually following gold. So gold is going up. Silver seems to be fighting. It's a bit of, or it seems to be in a bit of a limbo, but I guess most probably it might still end up following gold to the upside. So we'll just have to end up waiting to see. I guess the market does have a mind of its own. We're just trying to anticipate to the best of our ability. So we'll wait and see. So last but not least, we do have gold. So for gold, yesterday and today, we're trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So you can see the 3 areas I had pointed out. So price was here. I pointed out that looking for the buys high up there, there was added risk. We needed to wait and see whether we could get the pullback. And you can see that the pullback did actually come in. Price tapped back in within this region here. So if I just zoom in to see what happened. So price came back in, tapped within this region right here. We knew that there were buyers there. The market went up, still came back in within this region, although just came shy of that area. But generally, you can see that the buys were working somewhere off this area here. And of course, much later on, during the interest rate decisions, that's when the market really took off to the upside. So for this one, for today, we are still going to be trying to see whether we can get buying opportunities. For as long as we're holding above the red SNR, it means that the buyers are still in control, pushing up higher and higher. Gold is definitely making highs every day. Really expecting to see it possibly hit 4,000, this year, but we'll just have to wait and see. But generally, you can see that the market went up, found some sort of a resistance area there. You can see that the sellers are starting to come in. You can see some sign of aggression, but the buyers are still in control. So that means that you shouldn't really be looking for buying opportunities high up there. There's a possibility we could get the pullback coming in maybe somewhere within here. Gold seems to be trending up pretty well. So it broke this region to the upside. We could expect a pullback back within this region before we end up looking for the buys. So that's one scenario. The other scenario is if the market breaks above here and we make new highs, it's okay. Just wait for the pullback back within that region there. Similar situation to what the market has been doing. I mean, it's been going up higher, breaking levels, pulling back within areas. So just wait and see if you can get at least the big boys pushing to the upside. Once they do the heavy lifting on the pullback, all you just need to do is just time that buy as the market pulls back in and gives you a proper pullback that you can read. So let's wait and see what happens. Also, watch out for the region at the bottom. There's a possibility price can also come back in within there. The big boys can also pull in a real shocker, whereby many people are really hitting the buys. Then you find a spike, out of nowhere, just stopping out everyone before the market actually resumes to the upside. So also just make sure that you also do watch out for that region. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of everything that we're watching out for. So hopefully you've taken note of that. Can also give guys a tip, because I always like giving guys tips because over and above showing guys trades, we also give guys mentorship and free mentorship, during our sessions. Many guys, we always get feedback from guys. Guys are saying that they're struggling with their trading and everything. One thing I'll say is that trading is not easy. But one thing I'll tell you for sure is don't increase the quantity of your trades. Many people think that by increasing the quantity of their trades, then they'll become more profitable. But unfortunately, trading doesn't work like that. What you need to do is to improve the quality of your trades, not the quantity. So even if you're going to be getting lesser trades, even if you get one or two very, very good trades, you're better off than someone who's just taking 10 trades and hoping that maybe 5 or 6 work. So even if 4 don't work, you'll be fine. But ideally, focus more on improving the quality of your trades in terms of getting the direction correct, getting the timing correct, where exactly you're going to be hitting your trades, and working on your money management and your risk, most especially. Like I pointed out yesterday, a trader without risk management is prey, for the market. So if you focus more on improving the quality of your trades, not the quantity, because one thing you also need to remember is that professional traders don't really like taking too many trades, because remember, for every trade you end up taking, you're also exposing risk, and you're taking risk. So if you're taking more trades, you're just exposing yourself to more risk. So even for us, when we end up looking at all the currency pairs that we're looking at, we'll most probably end up getting 2, 3 very, very good setups. We don't have to take everything. So focus more on improving the quality of your trades and the quality of your trading, not really the quantity of your trading. And of course, if you're really struggling with that, that's the reason why us guys are here. You can end up joining the Afriforex Trading Academy, and we'll definitely walk you through the journey. So let's look at the chat box, see if there's anything there before call it a wrap. So I see Karen Corinne, good to see you there, saying hi John, thanks a lot. Karibu sana Karen. We're really glad that you could join us. I see Lyle, you're saying you're targeting 133 long on GBP USD given June's future positioning, but that pullback was long overdue. Yeah, the pullbacks were long overdue, especially considering the fact that the markets have been going in a particular direction for some extended period of time. But ideally, that still should be fine, as long as you really watch out. I mean, like the things that I've just pointed out right now, you get your timing correct and everything, you have your risk in check, you should be good to go. So let's see if the market actually ends up going all the way till there. So I see you also saying that US indices have already bottomed out, given their seasonality tendencies. Best to look for buys. Yeah, we'll wait and see what happens as well on that. So I do also end up agreeing on that. Most of them have hit some key areas. So thank you so much for that, Len. But also happy to see you here. So I see Dennis Osh Kayai, interesting name. Good to see you there as well. You're saying key to note pound interest rates release later on today. Yep. That's true. So we'll be waiting to see what ends up happening on that front, but also the CHFs also have interest rates. And I think those are the only interest rates for this month, the key ones, because we had the yens yesterday, we had the USDs yesterday, then this one's March 20th, CHF and Bank of England will be releasing those. Then I guess those are pretty much it for the majors, because this one for Russia, I don't really think any of us really trades or really focuses much on that. So I guess that's pretty much it. I want to thank everyone so much for making the time to be here with us. Hopefully you do end up having a fruitful day on the charts and in everything else that you're going to be doing. And hopefully we will see you guys tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. in the morning. So with that, happy trading, guys. And bye for now. May the pips be with you.